Okay, let's jump right into this explainer. Today, we're diving into a genuinely fascinating spiritual confession, the centuries-long journey of a woman named Han Xinyun. This story takes us all the way back to the Northern Song dynasty in China. And honestly, it's not just some dusty historical account, it's this profound look at human emotion, the literal laws of cause and effect, and the absolute crushing weight of holding on to a grudge. So, what actually happens when a deep sense of injustice traps a soul for, say, 800 years? I want you to keep this in the back of your mind as we go through this. We've all been wronged, right? We all know that bitter taste of unfairness. But imagine stretching that feeling across 8 centuries. How much of your own potential is just completely anchored down by a past grievance? As we unpack Han Xinyun's story, maybe think about the invisible anchors in your own life. Chapter 1. Pure Youth and Fatal Framing. We start off in the Northern Song dynasty. Han Xingyun was an only child, super cherished by her mother. But her father? He was completely driven by wealth and status, and he actually tried to force her into this corrupt arranged marriage. So facing an impossible choice at just 18 years old, she did something drastic. She left the secular world entirely to become a nun. And she thrived. Her natural talent and pure kindness got her quickly promoted by her master to guest prefect in her early 20s. She was basically the face of the temple. But, as we know, success often breeds a whole lot of envy. And that rapid rise, it sparked an absolutely devastating betrayal. A jealous senior nun actually teamed up with the exact same greedy suitor Han Xinyun had rejected years prior. It's like a terrible movie script. Under the cover of night, they slipped drugs into her food. While she was completely out cold, they put the suitor in her bed, messed up their clothes, and basically set the stage to look like this huge, scandalous affair. When the master and the other nuns walked in, well, the visual evidence was just overwhelming. Despite her begging and pleading, her absolute innocence was totally overshadowed by this malicious lie, and she was banished to protect the temple's reputation. Which brings us to Chapter 2, Vengeance and Tragic End. Imagine having your entire life's foundation ripped away by a lie. The psychological fallout was just catastrophic. Stripped of her purpose, her profound despair twisted into this really dark resolve. She realized that just dying wouldn't clear her name. It would let her abusers off the hook. So the pure-hearted nun vanished and was replaced by a soul totally consumed by retribution. Her new mantra became, "I am innocent and I will be avenged." Her revenge was incredibly methodical and honestly chilling. First, she faked her own death so everyone thought she was out of the picture. Then she became a literal living nightmare. Night after night, she visited that senior nun's room, screaming about her innocence until the woman had a complete mental breakdown and committed suicide. Next, she went after the wealthy suitor. She meticulously learned the layout of his massive mansion and repeated the exact same psychological torture until he, too, took his own life. But here's the tragic part. Getting even didn't bring her peace. Crushed by the guilt of abandoning her loving parents for this dark, twisted path, she tragically ended her own life at just 27 years old. Moving into Chapter 3, Karmic Judgment in the Underworld. Now, in Eastern spiritual traditions, the underworld isn't just chaos and hellfire. It's practically a cosmic bureaucracy. Here, Yama, the Lord of Death, looks at her ledger objectively. On one hand, yes, her years of genuine spiritual cultivation and her fundamentally kind nature are totally acknowledged. She was wronged, heavily wronged. But on the flip side, the cosmic books record a massive crime. She actively drove 2 people to suicide. In the strict mechanics of karma, your reason for murder doesn't erase the act of murder. So, to balance the scales, she was sentenced to be reborn as an animal for 2 lifetimes, specifically to be slaughtered by her reincarnated victims. A literal, painful repayment of a blood debt. Chapter 4. Clinging to Grievance. Tree Spirit. So after paying that heavy blood debt in the animal realm, she actually refused to go back to the underworld. Why? It comes down to this concept of zizhuo, or attachment. Even after serving her harsh sentences, her soul was still clinging to the injustice, still internally screaming, "But I was innocent!" This absolute inability to just let go of the past trapped her in this continuous loop of suffering, completely blocking any kind of spiritual evolution. Unwilling to face judgment again and missing her mother terribly, she just wandered as a lost soul. Luckily, some kinder spiritual beings took pity on her and taught her a really unique survival mechanism. They showed her how to anchor her spiritual essence to the roots of a living tree. This stabilized her, allowing her to continue her spiritual cultivation, effectively making her a tree spirit. And that brings us to the core of this whole explainer. Chapter 5, Tree Follows Mind, Letting Go. This right here is the absolute emotional climax of the story. She said, "The tree I attached to grew poorly because it grew according to my mindset." Wow. Think about that. She anchored her soul to this tree to find peace, but her mind was still violently churning with the injustice of her youth. The physical tree literally became a mirror of her soul. Because her heart was withered by anger, the tree itself couldn't thrive. It became all twisted and stunted. I mean, what a perfect metaphor for human psychology, right? When our minds are poisoned by resentment, the life we're trying to build right now will inevitably wither. Do you know how long it took her to finally drop those grievances? 800 years. 800 years. For 8 centuries, she suffered inside that tree, just obsessively replaying the betrayal and the framing. It wasn't until another incredibly compassionate spirit intervened and counseled her over a long period of time that she finally saw what her anger was costing her. Only then, after 800 years of self-sabotage, did she finally release her white-knuckle grip on the phrase, "I was wronged." And look at her now. Today, her spiritual cultivation has blossomed into this incredibly peaceful existence. Dropping that massive grudge was the absolute key to her liberation. She is no longer a vengeful ghost, she's a benevolent spirit. Because she hasn't quite earned the official mandate for major divine works yet, she just focuses on what she can do right now, helping kind-hearted people navigate small, everyday troubles. Every little act of help is a drop of positive merit, bringing her closer to returning to heaven. And you know what? She's deeply grateful for the chance to share this painful, yet totally enlightening story with us today. As we wrap up this incredible journey, I want to leave you with a thought to chew on. Han Xin-yun spent 800 years letting an unfair past dictate her present reality. Her tree grew poorly because her mind was trapped. So think about your own life. Are there old wounds, betrayals, or perceived injustices that you're just refusing to let go of? Are they making your own tree grow poorly? Use this explainer as a prompt to check your own attachments. Remember, dropping a grudge doesn't mean the other person was right. It literally just means you're finally choosing your own growth over their memory. Thanks for hanging out with me today, and I challenge you to start letting go of that baggage right now.